Hey, real quick, an update. Before I had a chance to upload this, my academy supervisor, William, called, and apparently they had a cancellation for tomorrow, so I am on at 7 a.m. to test, so I will update you on that, guys. So wish me luck, and ignore later on when I say hopefully I'll get to test out this week, so all right. Howdy. Back again. It is Tuesday, September 17th. I am back at the room. I'm still at the room. I didn't go today. I haven't been feeling well, and I've been sucking it up to get finished what I needed to get finished, and I did that. Get into that in a second. So I had some time, and I thought I would go ahead and shoot a video. Tired. All right. So yesterday I finished up. I had an hour and 45 minutes I needed for my road time. I needed to get my road evaluation. Finished both of those things. Passed my road evaluation, so for all intents and purposes, my Swift Academy duties are complete. I still need to get down to the DMV and get tested. Hopefully that will happen this week. We will see. But it was pretty cool. My instructor, they do it like the DMV does when you're doing your pre-trip evaluation or any evaluation. They don't talk to you like the testers do. They sit and watch. So he's like, we're gonna start your evaluation now, and he didn't say anything, just where to go. Turn left up here, turn right on here. What was the weight on that bridge, that kind of thing. And after about almost 30 minutes, he said, so how does it feel to be 25 seconds away from passing Swift Academy? I thought that was pretty cool. I'm like, it feels great. So I did pass that. I did well. I wanted to get into a few things today. Just some advice for anyone thinking about going into trucking. And this is not for everybody. I've said it before. Others have said it before. I've known this for a long time. I've been around trucking and trucks and all this stuff for basically my whole life. I know what it was like when my dad was gone, for weeks at a time. It's nothing new. I knew what I was getting into. That's my first piece of advice. If you are going to learn how to drive, get your CDLA, get out, and if you're going to drive over the road, even if you're going to have a regional type route, you're going to have to be away from home for a while. Make sure you understand what that entails. When they say you're going to be away from your family, that's exactly what it means. You're going to be away from your family. You're not going to be home. Be prepared for that, or don't do it. Because you don't want to spend all this time and invest all this time and money, because you're going to owe them money, just to find out you don't want to be away from home. This is actually the longest that my wife and I have spent away from each other at one time since her and I have been dating. We did a 2-week stint one time, but this is beginning 4 weeks, and we're okay. She's okay with it. She's real supportive. I keep telling her that if it's going to be 4 or 5 days before I am able to be assigned a mentor, I'm thinking about coming home. She's like, just stay out there and get it done. Stay out there and get it done. I think she might be enjoying it. No, she's not enjoying it, but yeah, just know that this is for you before you come out here. First and foremost. Before you go calling in recruiters and asking about detention pay and all this other stuff, you better realize you're going to be away from home. You're going to be away from home before you even get to drive. Maybe. You may live close to a school. You may just go to a school. You may be close to the terminal. We have some folks here that drive every day. But if you're traveling to do this like I am, you're going to start it right off the bat. And you may be gone for 7 or 8 weeks if you go through school 3 weeks and get into your 4th week like I am. And then you go straight from here and you get on a mentor's truck. For Swift, that's 200 hours. That's anywhere from 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks. I have already resigned myself to doing all of that in one shot if need be. So be ready for that. Number 2, be familiar with what's going on out here. You may or may not have access to a vehicle and a trailer. Be it someone with a boat trailer, a lawn tractor with just a lawn trailer. I'm not saying you got to come out here and be able to back up a trailer, but at least do yourself a favor and understand what's happening when you turn your steering wheel and you're backing up with a trailer and a pivot point. At least be able to have in your mind that you have to forget about everything you know about backing up. I've been backing stuff up my whole life. I understand it. I get it. That was not an issue for me. But it's been an issue for a few people who have come out here. A big issue where they are not sure and they're turning the wheel the wrong way repeatedly. And there's tricks to it. You know, they talk about steer towards the trouble. Now that sounds strange, but when you're backing up a truck, if you turn your steering wheel to the left, your trailer will go to the right. The back of the trailer will go to the right. So if you're getting ready to run into somebody's brand new shiny truck at the truck stop, you're in trouble. On your left side, you steer towards what you're getting ready to hit. Actually, if you're getting ready to hit something, you need to be pulling up away from it. But when you're simulating those thoughts and that thought process, when you're backing up around these cones and you are about to encroach and you're about to hit a cone, you think about that being something that you don't want to run into, and you steer towards it. You steer that truck towards what you're getting ready to hit, the trailer will go the opposite way. Know those things. Just kind of familiarize yourself with them, because you'll do yourself a huge favor coming out here knowing at least how it works. And if you have access to a vehicle and a trailer that somebody will let you get into and back up, do it. Be careful though, because the shorter the trailer, the quicker that thing will get away from you. The longer the trailer, the easier it is to back up because it's slower to react. And again, I've known that forever, but not many people do. Third, be prepared to listen and retain information. You can't just be sitting out here reading a piece of paper and not absorbing what you're reading or what you're hearing. These instructors, when you're doing your maneuvers, especially when you start doing your maneuvers, when you first get out there, they are walking next to that truck and they have their hand on the mirror and they're holding on and they have their hand, they are next to the truck. They are this far from your ear and they're telling you, turn left, turn right, straighten your wheel, slow down. And they're trying to tell you. You want your trailer to go to the right. Hold on, stop. Where's your cone? Okay, you want to go away from that cone. And more on that comprehension and retention thing. You're going to be given, a lot of information on printouts stapled together, and they'll have, some has graphics of your truck and your mirrors and where you can see and where your blind spots are. And just good, helpful information that you bring back to the room and you read it over and you study it and you remember it and you learn it. And we've all been in school. We know how to study. But the big one is the Pretrip. Everybody carries a Pretrip cheat sheet with them for weeks on end. And there are quite a few who have not retain the information that they're looking at on that piece of paper. So they're sitting in the truck, they're standing at the truck, they're walking around the truck, they're reading this paper, but they're not remembering what they need to do. They're not learning it, they're reading it. And a good story about that is we had a young man that he's actually one of the ones that transferred out, went to Memphis because it wasn't, he didn't mind having a restriction on his license for automatic, and that's fine. So he went to Memphis, but before he left, he was still tied to that paper. I mean, there was one day, I think it was real close to the time he left, and this is the menu, but here's his cheat sheet, right? And he's sitting in the truck and he's doing his in-cab and he's doing his brake test, and he's sitting there and he's got his paper up like this and he's reading, and the instructor's sitting next to him and he's going through all of his checks. He's like, my headlights, and then turn signal, left turn signal, right turn signal, high beam indicator. And the instructor said, "Did your high beam indicator work?" And he said, "Yes." And he's like, "A deer in the headlights." He's like, "Yeah." He said, "How do you know?" "How do you know?" He said, you were looking at your paper. You weren't looking at the dashboard to see if you were checking your stuff and everything was lighting up. Another time, he was reading through his pre-trip or his brake test, and he's got the truck off and he's got his knob, his valves in, and I would begin fanning the brakes down to 60 p, and he's pumping the brakes right while he's doing this, and I will fan the brakes down to 60 psi. At 60 psi, the indicator light will come thump thump, and he kept reading. The indicator light will come on, the buzzer will not, you won't be able to hear it, and he's still reading this thing, and his valves have already popped out on the dashboard because he's just reading a paragraph and he's not, I don't know, it's frustrating. Just be prepared to learn and retain what you're being told. And most importantly, when that is going on, do what they tell you to do. We have people who get frustrated because the instructors are yelling at me. That man has been telling you to stop for 30 feet. He's been telling you to straighten your wheel. We had people to straighten your wheel. Wheel turned all the way to the lock, to the left. Straighten your wheel, straighten your wheel. And they're turning and it won't go any further. No, it won't go any further because you turned all the way to the left. It's not rocket science, it's a steering wheel. You turn a steering wheel in your car. People get confused. They think when they get in the truck, it's completely different. But a steering wheel still works the same way. When he tells you to turn left and you're all the way to the right and you keep turning the steering wheel to the right, right is right and left is left, no matter what you're driving. Most importantly, listen to the stop. It's on your permit test that you had better have before you come out here. It's not necessary, but I've told you before. Do yourself a favor, have your permit when you come here. So we know you're all going to do that, and you're all going to have your permits when you come here. So you should already know when you've taken your permit test, one of the questions on most of them, if not all of them, is if you're using a spotter, what is the most important signal you need to know? The most important signal that you and your spotter have worked out ahead of time. Stop. Somebody telling you stop, there's a reason. Now you may only be getting ready to run over a cone, but there may be somebody that's not paying attention and they're coming from that truck on the other side of the range and they're trying to skirt behind your truck real quick because you're only going real slow. Stop, 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 stop. He should not have to tell you 100 times to stop. That truck should not travel 30 feet before you stop. He's yelling at you because you are not listening and you're not doing what he's telling you to do. Stop the truck. Turn the wheel when he tells you to turn the wheel. Retain the information. They're not going to tell you the wrong thing to do. Now, I didn't get into too much of this. I don't remember if I did or not. I'll have to go back and rewatch my videos, but if I did, you're gonna hear it again. When you're out there on the range and you're not listening and you're taking forever because you're not listening, it's frustrating for you, it's frustrating for the instructor, and it's frustrating for all those folks that are waiting their turn who are prepared to listen. I haven't gotten too much into it at school with the instructors or with the supervisor about waiting and things taking longer. But we, as I said before, had 3 people show up without their permits, and we spent an entire day with them reading the book for them to study for their permit test. One girl failed multiple times. She never came back. Second guy, I think I touched on him a little bit. Had some major safety violations. I'm gonna tell you about him right now. He was out on the range. The original story that I heard was there was a student riding on the side of a truck on the steps while the truck was moving across the parking lot, across the range. Now, I don't know if that's that's what the instructor said. I don't have any reason to doubt her. The story he told was, I stepped up on the step of the truck to answer a question, and whoever was in the truck, their foot slipped off the clutch, and the truck lurched a little bit, and that was it. It wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't my fault, is what he said. It was not my fault. I proceeded to tell him, actually, that is your fault, because you stepped up on a truck with it in gear and somebody with their foot on the clutch. He said, but it's only common sense. You just leave your foot on the clutch, right? You just leave your foot on the clutch and leave your foot on the brake, and it's common sense. Yeah, but things happen. Those clutches, I mean, you gotta hold that thing in, and this guy's never driven a stick before. He's never driven a stick in a car. The clutch is way stiffer in that truck than, what he would be used to had he driven a stick in a car. You don't trust that he's gonna hold his foot on that clutch while you're standing inside that truck. First of all. And I told him, this happened several days before that incident. Student in a truck, he asked me a question. I approached the truck. I said, go ahead and put it in neutral and let your foot off the clutch and set your brakes. He did so. I did not climb up on the truck. I got close enough to the truck that I could hear him. You don't trust that somebody else is going to hold their foot on the clutch. You have them put it in neutral, set those brakes. That's your job. So yes, that's your fault. He got a talking to. He did come back out on the range. We went to lunch. When my group came back to the range, we walked around the corner. My instructor is next to me, sitting on the range. There he is, in a running truck. My instructor said, what's he doing in that truck with it running? Now, I don't know if he was out there working on maneuvers while we were inside at lunch with no instructor on the range. But as we noticed that he was in a running truck, that truck started to move. And he was getting ready to set up for a maneuver. Whether that was his first maneuver or whether he'd been doing them for a half hour while we were inside is irrelevant. This guy was smart. I could tell that he was going to be able to drive. He was young. He's only 23 years old, but he was very knowledgeable about cars and trucks and driving. And, he was knowledgeable. He was about backing a trailer. But he was one of those people that knew enough, maybe I should say knew so much, that he figured he might be able to get a pass on where somebody else might get in trouble for doing something like standing on the side of a truck, or I know what I'm doing, so I don't really need an instructor out here, so they'll recognize that I know what I'm doing, and they'll be okay with it. And that is not the case. Those safety rules are in place for a reason. This is not mine, but came from a friend of mine that I've known for a long time that I worked with. He was actually my boss for a while. He said to a group of people in a conference room, and this is true for that truck out there on the range, it's true for your machine in the machine shop, it's true for a blender and a paint, any machine that you're working with. He said that machine will kill you and go straight back to work and not know any different. That's what I told him. And it's plain and simple. I think that maybe he thought that he would be able to do those things and maybe they wouldn't say anything to him because I don't know what I'm doing. They talked to him a second time. They didn't send him home. Me personally, if he was riding on those steps and that truck was actually traveling across the range, I'd have sent him home right then and I wouldn't let him come back. That's just me. Now, I've mentioned it before, these instructors here are strict. They're not strict, they're serious. I was surprised that Will did not send him out of there, but he didn't. He gave him the benefit of the doubt. That's not acceptable. Now he's on the range driving a truck with no instructor on the range. They talked to him again, but he still came back out after getting his butt chewed, and they didn't send him home. He did not show up the next day. I was not surprised. But I found out later he had called his recruiter and told his recruiter, when am I going to learn? I didn't put it in airplane mode again. I didn't think anybody would be calling me. Anyway, where was I? He had called his recruiter and told the recruiter that Will was out to get him. So, it is what it is. He was not out to get him. He actually gave him more of a break than I would have given. Anyway, that's a super long story just to say he's gone and he showed up without a permit. One's gone because they couldn't pass their permit test. That's the big one. You don't want to get here without a permit and then be like, I couldn't pass the test. And then she lived close by, but you're going to get on a bus and ride for 12, 15, I mean, for me it would be, I think, 23 or 24 hours to find out you can't pass your permit test and you got to go back home. It ain't worth it. It's not worth it. So she's gone. She didn't pass her permit test. He's gone. He brought it on himself. The third guy, he stuck around for a good long while. He was here till last week, but he was deathly afraid to back up the truck. He said he was, I believe his exact words, I am just scared to death to back that truck up. As soon as I get in that truck, start going backwards, I'm debilitated with fear. So he was able to get out on the road, drive a little bit, and again, I think I may have touched on this, but he was just too scared to drive trucks, so he decided to quit. He quit. He's actually texted me the other day, called me. He's been calling, hey, he lives pretty close too. Anybody need a ride to the store? I'll come and get somebody a ride. He's a really nice guy. It just wasn't for him. So all three of those people that we lost an entire day, aside from the fact that we had a huge group, and aside from the fact that the second week's group was even larger than ours, we spent an entire day working on permits, and all three of those people are gone. Now, moving on. Just those few things, really. Do some research, know what you're getting yourself into when you get into this career. Straighten that up. Not necessary, but recommended. Familiarize yourself with how it works when you are backing up a truck and a trailer. And be prepared to listen and retain the information that you're given. They're not going to tell you anything to do that's wrong. They want you to be able to, do what you need to do. Now, they're doing their best to teach you what you need to do. But put yourself down the right path. That's really all I wanted to get into. This video is already longer than it should be. It's longer than any video I've put up yet, but I just wanted to touch on a few of those things because they will frustrate you, they will frustrate your instructor, and they will frustrate those people who are behind you, both in your class, in the class behind you. You don't want to be in week 4 still working on. There's guys working on their maneuvers today, week 4, day 2 of week 4. So that's all. Just a little bit of advice from me to you. You don't have to take it. I don't even know who's going to see it. I have 7 subscribers. Who's even going to see this? But maybe somebody will run across it and it'll help them out. If it does, let me know that it helped you out. Let me know that I'm full of crap. Whatever. All right, I'm going to get off here. Again, I don't feel good, and I think I'm going to eat a little something, see how that makes me feel. So thanks again for stopping by, checking it out. I'll have more to come. I may do another video today, so if you see a video directly after this one where I'm wearing the same outfit, that's why, because I decided to do 2 of them in one day. So, all right, thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.